As Art got inside, the lady warned him to take steps carefully, but just as his legs slipped and he fell in that valley, he thought that a warning that he was going to drop 2 stories down would have been nice. And as he was getting up, he fell again on the ground to see something and was so scared of looking at that. Because there was a monster standing in front of him, and he wondered what that was. That monster was the lady whom he was talking to, and she commented that they had finally met. As she was stepping down near to him, he seemed more scared. She said that bugs would fly into his mouth if he kept it open so wide, so he closed his mouth. The lady took her hand near to him and said that it would take some time for her to open a dimensional portal to send him to his home, and there were special plants that would be able to nourish him until then. There were lots of different coloured plants shining around them. Art got up by thanking her. He then picked a purple-coloured plant and thought that it would be okay. He saw his face in that and was reminded of his family. The lady got on his back and by touching him with her hand, said that the plant he had was good in taste. Art was shocked to see her, and by that he put pressure on the plant to make it blast. And after that, they both got to eat the plants. While eating, Art said that he knew she was a lady, but was there any other name by which he could call her? She replied that she was Sylvia. Art asked if he could be allowed to ask some questions. Sylvia replied to just ask, although she might not be able to answer everything. He thought that with his initial fear of Sylvia's appearance slowly fading, he began to ask her all of the questions that had been on his mind since waking up from the fall. He questioned what that place was and why she was alone, where she came from, how she got that wound, and what the reason was for her saving him. She replied that his first question was easy, and that place was a narrow zone that rests between the Beast Glades and the Forest of Elsha. No one knew about that place because she had been warding off anyone who came close, and those cases were rare in the first place. He was the first person to enter into that domain. As she was calling him by his full name, he suggested she called him Art. She agreed to call him by that name. Then she continued that she was living there alone because she had no one left with her, and she had a lot of enemies who desperately wished for something that she had. Her last battle with her enemy was before she was able to escape, which left her with that wound. She saved him because she was moved by his courage and sacrifice, and she had simply grown lonely, though she didn't fully understand why. She would excuse herself for the night as her wound festered, and she would be in better condition to work on the dimensional rift the next day. He then bid her good night, and as the fearsome figure clad in dark armor walked away, he couldn't help but think how lonely she appeared. As she was leaving, she stopped and said that her sight was unable to reach exactly where they had gone, but his family and friends were safe, so it was up to him to make sure. He became emotional knowing they were all safe, and then he thanked Sylvia. He was practicing swords and picking up fruits to eat with Sylvia, and they spent hours talking about all sorts of things when he wasn't preparing the portal. Those hours bled into days and then into weeks while they spent every moment together, and while Sylvia never talked about her own life, Art slowly began to understand what sort of person she was. Once, when he was concentrating, he saw Sylvia picking the fruits, and he thought that she was the living embodiment of the phrase, "Don't judge a book by its cover." Contrary to her trauma-inducing appearance, she was kind, gentle, patient, and warm. She looked at him, and by taking fruits near to him, she asked if he had a chance to dine yet, and their fruits were particularly savoury and rarely grew elsewhere. Art thought that she reminded him of his mother in that she was gentle and kind but firmly scolded him when he was wrong. As he took the fruit, he just remembered something unpleasant. There was a time when he had expressed his animosity towards the bandits and they deserved the worst death, and if any of them made it alive, he was going to find and kill them. By stating all that, he got into an aggressive nature, but Sylvia just hit him to make him fall. As he got up, he asked why she had done that. She was sitting in front of him and said that perhaps he wasn't wrong in what he was thinking about those bandits, and she chose not to save the maid he fell with for the same reason. However, letting his heart cloud with hatred and vengeance like that would only cause harm to him. Instead of that, he could continue living proudly with his life, with his gaze forward. He would come across misfortunes again, but he shouldn't let grief and rage corrode his mind. He should learn from them and face the future with a smile. Only then would he truly be victorious. She then asked him if she had hit him hard and if it was hurting. He thought that being lectured on morals and being uplifted by a figure that appeared to be the epitome of evil had oddly struck him deeply. She called him and asked why he hadn't been eating the fruit and if there was anything wrong. He replied that it was fine, and then started eating the fruit and commented on her wound, saying it seemed like it was getting worse. She replied not to worry and that the wound festered from time to time. He asked if that was really the case. She said that she had been meaning to ask if it was to her understanding that humans usually awaken around the age of 12 or 13, so how he had formed his mana core and was able to utilize mana more efficiently than many full-fledged mages. Art replied that his parents had said that he was a genius. She commented that so he would be able to learn that. He asked to learn what? She got up and said to meditate and absorb the mana while moving and perhaps while fighting if they were good enough. As she was doing that, he was shocked to see and asked how she was able to do that. She replied that humans had a very linear mindset regarding mana and usually started with small, mindless movements and worked their way up from there. He did something with his hand and said that it was easier said than done. Sylvia explained that mana beasts learned to do that naturally, but since humans usually awakened much later, their bodies weren't able to perform multitasking. Considering the latter fact didn't apply to him, if he practiced enough, he should be able to do that. Then Artie said that he would do his best for that. They both started to practice, and Artie slipped there, but he got up to practice more. He thought that practicing the skill to its fullest essentially meant being able to fight proficiently while still maintaining a steady inward flow of mana. He swung his sword a lot of times. He thought that it couldn't be like that, but then he became happy and said to Sylvia that he did it. However, he sensed that she was lying there. He was worried to see her like that. He rushed to her to check what had happened. But as he reached her, he found that she was bleeding, and his legs were touched by the blood. He used his power to turn her around and noticed that her wound was worsening so rapidly. But why? He saw a portal in front of him and thought that it couldn't be like that. Then he remembered all those times with her and realized that it was getting worse because she was creating the portal, and she did all that because of him. She told him that she was fine. Art was crying and asked how she could say that when she was sacrificing herself for him. He cried for longer than he cared to admit, and cried for the first time like the child he was on the outside. She asked him if he had calmed down any. He denied it, and she continued that they didn't have much time left together, and she would hate for it to be wasted with him blaming himself over that. Through his tears, he asked how he couldn't blame himself when she was sacrificing herself for him to be able to meet his family. She told him that he was doing her a favor by allowing her to leave that forsaken cave a bit faster, and her name didn't suit that form. Then the whole black body of hers started breaking, and a beautiful white creature appeared with wings. She then asked him if she currently looked more like Sylvia. He asked if she was a dragon. She agreed and said that she supposed she was what humans referred to as a dragon, but they had little time for idle chatter in that form. She needed to use her original form to finish the portal, but her disguise was gone, and danger would soon be coming. Art questioned who was coming. She then told him to just listen, and that there were some things she must say before they parted ways. She then gave him a rainbow-coloured small egg. He thought that it wasn't heavy, yet he felt like he could barely hold it. She then gave him one of her wings and instructed him to wrap the egg in it to conceal its aura and bear with her for one more thing. As she bit him, there were some symbols on his hands, causing him pain. Sylvia told him that everything would reveal itself when the time came. He looked into her eyes and asked if she was fine. She replied that she would open the portal and didn't have time to make it go directly home, but he should arrive somewhere near humans. He asked if she was leaving him. Just then some rocks fell on him, but Sylvia blocked those rocks and hid Art under her wings. Someone arrived in the same form as Sylvia and told her to cease her stubbornness and give that thing to her. The other person might even heal her wound. Art looked at that different creature and thought it was of the same form as Sylvia's previous form. That creature told Sylvia that she had already caused them trouble. Sylvia told Art that she had a confession to make, the truth to be told, and she intentionally prolonged the transportation spell so that she could spend more time with him. She wouldn't ask him to forgive her, but she had one more request: could he call Sylvia Grandma once? He held her wing, and by pulling away denied and told her to come with him. He didn't know what she did, but everything was frozen, and they could leave there together. She became emotional and said she couldn't, then freed herself to throw him into the dimensional portal, bidding farewell. He resisted, but then he called her Grandma. She cried and thanked him for that.
Welcome to BMV Manhwa, your favorite place to watch manhwas. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy the content.